Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are watching Star Trek, the original series, Season 1, Episode 3, Where No Man Has Gone Before. This episode has numerous distinctions. One, I just mentioned, it was the third episode aired. However, this was the second pilot ordered by NBC. The Cage being the unaired and I guess you could say failed pilot that NBC liked the direction and story, but not necessarily the presentation of the cage. And so they did pretty much the unthinkable and ordered a second pilot, which became Where No Man Has Gone Before. So we will see the original uniforms like they had in the cage and a couple other things. Now, normally, just to kind of share my process, what I do is I don't look ahead. I don't Google anything. I don't sit there and type in Star Trek, Where No Man Has Gone Before. I'll get a synopsis. It'll ruin stuff. So what I normally do is I go into Paramount Plus and I pull up just the thumbnail, take a look at it to know that, what am I, what do I have to wear today, to make sure I have the appropriate uniform one. I was sort of shocked to see that I was going to be able to go back and use the one from the cage. But the other thing I noticed was, and on the thumbnail, it provided me this information that it and I did double check this. Sally Kellerman guest stars in this episode. I don't know who she plays. It definitely looks like somebody from Starfleet. She's wearing a blue either science or medical uniform. The only reason why I mention that is Sally Kellerman is a friend of my family and a wonderful, or was an absolutely wonderful woman. I will talk more about her in my thoughts afterwards. But in seeing that, I wanted to give a shout out because Sally was a absolutely wonderful human being. Anywho, I'm very much looking forward to this for multiple reasons. This is again, to keep it in the back of your mind. The cage failed. It didn't make it. It didn't have what NBC was looking for to commission an entire series run or even order a couple more episodes. But this one, Where No Man Has Gone Before, it clicked where the cage didn't. Now, again, it's weird because it clicked, which enabled them to make the rest of season 1, but it didn't click enough for NBC or the creatives or whoever in charge to make it the first episode they aired, to kind of start it off in the sequence. This is the third. So while they liked it, they didn't like it as much as The Man Trap or Charlie X, which I have way higher expectations for this one. No offense, Charlie, but we've talked about that. Anywho, everybody, let's get into this and let's make sure that we view this for what it is. This is the second chance of Star Trek, and this is the one they got right enough to make the series that we have. So, friends, let's take a look. And again, this will be the first time, too, that William Shatner put on the uni and sat in the chair as James T. Kirk, at least as far as production is concerned. And so, my friends, if you could do me a kindness before we get started, please hit that like button, smash that subscribe, ring that bell for notifications for whenever we go live here on YouTube for any of our Star Trek or sci-fi related content. And of course, if you would like longer format with our full-length watch-alongs and reactions, it's available down at Patreon, link in the description. But right now, my friends, right now, it is time to see what NBC saw and maybe even a little bit more. And it's time for me to be able to watch Sally Kellerman in a role I never knew that she had. And I'm very, very excited about that. So, my friends, it's time to engage maximum warp reaction. And away we go. Well, it looks different.
We're picking up a recorded distress signal. The call letters of a vessel which has been missing for over 2 centuries.
2 centuries.
Did another Earth ship once probe out of the galaxy as we intend to do? What happened to it out there?
Bill Shatner.
Is this some warning they've left behind?
I'll have you checkmated, your next move.
Have I ever mentioned you play a very irritating game of chess, Mr. Spock?
Object is now within tractor beam range.
No visual contact, Mr. Kelso?
No, sir. Small enough to bring it aboard, sir, if you want to risk it.
Lock onto it, Mr. Kelso.
Materializer ready, sir.
Bring it aboard.
Hey, Scotty. You can tell there's a stripped down budget between this and even like the man trap.
They could be ejected when something threatened the ship.
Like a black box.
Let's hope its tapes are intact. We'll feed it through Mr. Spock's computer.
Ooh, something that old beeping.
Flash the bridge. Put all decks on the alert.
Flash the bridge. Is that like red alert? Nice. I like the cold open. Good stuff. Where no man has gone before. Everything looks different. Like, I still appreciate they're using exterior hallway shots, you know, on a budget. I assume on a budget.
You ready, Mr. Alden? Acknowledged, Mr. Mitchell.
Mitchell. Gary Mitchell? I think he was in the autobiography of, I think. That name sounds familiar. Probably wrong.
Approaching Galaxy Edge, sir.
This is the captain speaking. The object we encountered is a ship's disaster recorder, apparently ejected from the SS Valiant almost 200 years ago. We'll move out into our probe as soon as we have those answers. All decks stand by.
Sally.
This is Dr. Dana, who joined the ship at the Aldebaran colony.
Psychiatry, Captain. My assignment is to study crew reaction in emergency conditions.
Well, improving the breed, Doctor. Is that your line?
I heard that's more your specialty, Commander. Line included.
Ooh.
Sounds like the ship had encountered some unknown force.
Seems weird to see Spock in a color that's not blue.
Repeated urgent requests for information from the ship's computer records for anything concerning ESP in human beings.
Extrasensory.
Perception?
Yeah.
How are you in ESP?
In tests, I've taken my ESP rated rather high.
I'm asking what you know about ESP.
It is a fact that some people can sense future happenings.
Really?
Severe damage. 7 crewmen dead.
Out of how many?
1 crewman seemed to have recovered. That's when they became interested in extrasensory perception.
Did they become possessed?
I must have read it wrong. It sounded like the captain giving an order to destroy his own ship.
Wow. So again, this reinforces, and you all have told me on YouTube that Sulu was in fact a botanist. And with the science uniform on.
Valiant was destroyed.
That was Dr. Piper, I think they said.
We're leaving the galaxy, Mr. Mitchell. Ahead, warp factor 1.
Remember what Jane Cobb said about the edge of space. He was there once. It was just more space. That's not more space.
We're coming up on it fast.
I actually like this actor that's playing Mitchell a lot. He has really good reaction.
Density negative. Radiation negative.
Good reactions.
Whatever it is, contact in 12 seconds.
No, I'm really digging the guy that's playing Mitchell. Maybe it's time to turn around, Jim. Ho!
All decks on fire alert.
Jim, maybe turn around. Oh no. What is that? Is that them getting shocked? I'm not trying to, you know, make fun of the special effects or anything. I can't tell if that was supposed to be something different or they were just getting shocked. I mean, Sally, or Dr. Denier, she wasn't anywhere near any type of panel. And so something happened to her. I'm saying it's something from that cloud.
Damage control reports, all stations.
Why is Leonard Nimoy yelling?
Engineering deck 3, can you give damage report? The sensor beam, full power.
I like the cross chatter on the. It's more like a military vessel.
Gary, you all right?
We know Gary doesn't make it, but damn, he's not in the regular series. Is that like a galaxy in his eyes?
Main engines burned out. The ship's space warp ability gone. Earth bases, which were only days away, are now years in the distance.
What? I'm loving this episode.
What destroyed the Valiant? They lived through the barrier just as we have. What happened to them after that?
They turned around to come back out. So that's what Spock read on the.
You mentioned that tests show that you have a high degree of extrasensory perception. So do the records of the others. Gary Mitchell has the highest Esper rating of all.
Oh.
Espers are simply people with flashes of insight.
Espers? I've never heard this. That is a cool ass effect on his eyes. Uh-oh, what's he reading? Didn't they say they were looking through the computer logs? That always seems to be the alien way. You possess or take over the ship's computers and then start going through our history.
Hey, you look
Wow,
worried.
that is super
I've been worried
disconcerting.
about you ever since that night on Denham 4.
Denham 4.
The first thing I ever heard from an upperclassman was, watch out for Lieutenant Kirk. In his class, you either think or sink.
I love this.
If I hadn't aimed that little blonde lab technician at you, I outlined her whole campaign for her. I almost married her.
I'm pretty sure this is, if this is his buddy from Starfleet, from the Academy, he was in the autobiography of James T. Kirk.
I'm trying to tell you I feel fine. When do I go back on duty?
This guy's a good actor.
Dr. Dana to keep you under observation for a while.
Almost 100 women on board. You can do better than that, friend Captain.
Now Pike gave us.
Didn't I say you'd better...
What was that? Bill Shatner out of the gate too, tearing it up as Kirk. This guy, I find him fascinating though. A really good actor. Oh, Spock's watching.
He's reading even faster now than just a few moments ago.
Is he just looking at the camera or could he see Jim?
Even the healthiest are generally off on some reading.
This, having just come off the thing, I'm a little...
Since I am assigned here, can we make the best of it?
I've got nothing against you, Doctor.
Or against the walking freezer unit?
Oh, Sally.
Now back to normal, I think.
Oh boy.
What did you do there?
What did they use in his eyes?
I just thought of making it happen, and it does. It just...
This is creepy and I love it.
Hey, watch this, Doc.
Like no one comes running. They're supposed to be under like super monitoring 24/7 surveillance.
You were dead for almost 22 seconds. There were no readings at all.
This guy is killing it.
What's happening to me?
How could they have not gotten this guy for the series? Holy shit, is he good?
Read that quickly? Yeah. On any tape?
Has it always been that way? He's always had like a photographic memory or? I mean, obviously he's reading way too fast. There's something wrong. But I mean, if he always had a photographic memory that... This dude, like with his, like the touching and the whispered delivery. Oh, Sally.
How do you feel?
This dude rocks!
Film.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Holy shit, this guy, wow.
I'm not joking, Lee. You activate those packs and you'll blow the whole impulse deck.
Yeah, check it out, Lee.
He'd seen those points and he hadn't noticed their condition.
He read his mind. This guy.
What he'd seen was still in his mind.
Who is this guy?
I don't know how, but he was right. This point is burned out exactly the way he described it.
Well, Lee, that looks like it's maybe your fault.
Have you noted evidence of unusual powers?
He can control certain autonomic reflexes. He reads very fast. Retains more than most of us might consider usual.
As if the ship and crew were almost a toy for his amusement.
Oh, boy.
Are they right, Doctor? Has he shown abilities of such magnitude?
I saw some such indications.
And you didn't think it worth mentioning?
No one's been hurt, have they? Don't you understand? A mutated superior man could also be a wonderful thing. The forerunner of a new and better kind of human being.
What? Oh, no. She's got a high Esper level, too.
Mitchell's ability is increasing geometrically. That is like having a penny, doubling it every day. In a month, you'll be a millionaire.
In less time than that, he will have attained powers we can't understand. Soon, we'll be not only useless to, but actually an annoyance.
Yep.
There'll be no discussion of this with the crew.
I'm going to tell you what. I 100% see why this one sold NBC on this.
In a month, you'll have as much in common with us as we'd have with a ship full of white mice.
But I need a recommendation, Spock, not vague warning.
Right.
We may be able to adapt some of its power packs to our engines.
And if we can't,
We'll be trapped in orbit there. We haven't enough power to blast back out.
It is the only possible way to get Mitchell off this ship.
If you mean strand Mitchell there, I won't do it.
It's his friend.
Then you have one other choice. Kill Mitchell while you still can.
What?
The captain of the Valiant probably felt the same way.
Yeah, I mean, there's the logic is still there this early with Spock. He blew up his ship. Holy fuck. Yeah, I was saying earlier, during the thing, my stomach was going crazy because of the tension. It's doing it now during this.
Kelso's task, transport down with a repair party. Try to regenerate the main engines. Save the ship. Our task. Transport down a man I've known for 15 years.
Leave him.
Successful. Maroon him there.
Buried alive. That was a badass effect.
Some people think that makes me a monster, don't they, Jim?
Oh, boy.
What would you do in my place?
Oh, that's a great question.
Probably just what Mr. Spock is thinking now.
Kill me while you can.
Well, you can.
Stop it, Gary.
Oh.
I'm not sure yet just what kind of a world I can use.
Use?
That maybe a god could do.
I want him unconscious for a while.
Yeah, zap him out. If it even works. Oh, I have got to learn this actor's name. I am loving this dude. Oh, this is so sad, though.
You fool, pseudo squasher like insect.
This guy's killing it. Again, I'm always so impressed by the fact that they do these additional stage settings, and you got him down here.
There's not a soul on this planet but us.
Nobody but us chickens, Doctor.
I mean, I know that's like a matte painting or something, but it's dope.
He's regaining consciousness.
Is there anything left of Gary? I mean, appeal to that? This episode is dope. This episode is so good.
Monitor him on the dispensary screen.
I'd like to stay now. Try to talk to her.
That's a bad idea. You have too much of that ESP or Esper rating.
My friend, James Kirk.
He's gone.
You said if you were in my place, you'd kill a mutant like yourself.
Why don't you kill me then? Mr. Spock is right, and you're a fool if you can't see it.
Gary, go! His eyes went back to normal.
Fighting the force field drained his strength. For a while, at least. He could be handled now.
Shit. This is not going to have a good ending because we don't know of Gary beyond this.
I'll just keep getting stronger. You know that, don't you?
Oh my God. This guy. Woo. Scotty fixing shit from the jump.
Mr. Spock, get the phaser rifle we sent down.
I didn't order any.
Oh, hell yeah.
Dr. Dana feels he isn't that dangerous. What makes you right and a trained psychiatrist wrong?
Because she feels. I don't.
Oh, boy.
In my opinion, we'll be lucky if we can repair this ship and get away in time.
He's right. We're playing chess, Jim.
From here, you could blow up this whole valley.
Woo! I'm glad that they took, not that it bothers me too much, but I'm glad they took Spock's eyebrows down a little bit. It's a little too severe.
In orbit above us, the engines of the Enterprise are almost fully regenerated.
Oh, that worked. Good, that worked.
Mitchell, whatever he's become.
How did they do that with his eyes? Oh, are those like contacts? I mean, they have to be.
I'm kind of proud of the job we've done. Are we going to be ready to transform?
Lee. Yep. R.I.P. L.E.E.
You should have killed me while you could, James. Command and compassion is a fool's mixture.
Oh boy. This guy is killing it. I hate to keep saying that. Oh shit.
At least Spock's alive.
Dr. Dana,
She went with Mitchell.
my fault. Mitchell got as far as he did.
Jim, you can't take him. Again, the sets. They could be repurposed, blah, blah, blah. You have to redress these sets. This is so much time and effort. I appreciate it so much. That little smile. This dude's...
Behold.
Is this an illusion or is it real? Or a glimpse of the future? Or... it looks real. She touched it. This guy's baller. He is so baller. What I can't tell about his uniform is there an undershirt or is it just like a smaller uniform? Because it's pulling up in the back. Not that that's a big deal, but I'm just kind of curious.
A very foolish man.
God, Gary's got to be gone. Gary, if you're still in there, bud.
Let there be food. Caffarian apples.
They look like pears. Don't get me. Bill Shatner is doing a fantastic job in this. It's the guy that's playing Gary Mitchell is just stealing it. He's just putting it in his pocket and taking the show away.
Can you hear me, James? You cannot see me. I'm not there. You follow the right path, James. You'll come to me soon.
I can see him in my mind, too.
Her voice isn't echoing yet, though. That eye effect is so weird. Are there any other crew members with like an high Esper rating? Because they probably need to be watched.
Please go back while you still can.
Did you hear him joke about compassion? Above all else, a god needs compassion! Mitchell!
What do you know about gods?
Then let's talk about humans.
Oh my God, this episode.
Powerful as he gets, he'll still have all that inside him.
Go back.
She's trying to save him.
You know the ugly, savage things we all keep buried that none of us dare expose, but he'll dare. Who's to stop him? He doesn't need to care. Be a psychiatrist for 1 minute longer. What's your prognosis, Doctor?
Oh, this is so good. Come on, Sally. I mean, Elizabeth, but...
I'm disappointed in you, Elizabeth.
Oh my God.
Been contemplating the death of an old friend.
Oh my God.
He deserves a decent burial, at least.
This guy is killing it.
Stop it, Gary.
Oh.
Morals are for men, not gods.
Yeah, but are you really a god or just...
Time to pray, Captain. Pray to me.
Oh my God, this is great.
One jealous god. If all this makes a god, or is it making him something else?
Tear it up, Bill.
Absolute power corrupting absolutely.
Come on, Sally. Can they hurt each other? Keep fighting. He's way too strong. Oh, come on, come on! Can you drive it out? You did, you did, you did. Hurry, hurry.
You haven't much time.
But it's Gary. Oh, Jesus. They're coming back. They're coming back.
Gary, forgive me.
Oh, good idea. That couldn't have done it, right? Maybe if he was weakened. What about the doctor? She's still infected though, right?
I'm sorry.
There's no way you recover from that. Is she unconscious or dead? Okay, is she dead or...
Add to official losses, Dr. Elizabeth. Be it noted she gave her life in performance of her duty. Lieutenant Commander Gary Mitchell, same notation. I want a service record to end that way.
It should.
I felt for him, too.
I believe there's some hope for you after all, Mr. Spock.
Oh, my word. Wow. What an episode. Oh, my God. Hands down, my favorite one so far. Oh, that's so good. Holy shit, was that good. Oh, we just got finished watching a banger. Just got finished watching Star Trek, the original series, season 1, episode 3, Where No Man Has Gone Before. And this was the second pilot that NBC ordered. And wow, did it deliver. Friends, whew, let's talk about it. All right, my friends, just got finished with Star Trek, the original series, season 1, episode 3, Where No Man Has Gone Before. And as a promise to myself and to you all, I have decided to streamline my thoughts as opposed to rambling on and on. Now, over on Patreon, they'll be a little bit longer because I won't edit it as much, but here I'm going to try to be concise and to the point instead of being a fanboy, which I am currently growing into one, and going on and on about the things that I feel are, so observant. So anywho, thing I didn't like about the episode had nothing to do with the episode. My question is this: how in the hell was this episode, episode 3, Where No Man Has Gone Before, how was this one supplanted in the pecking order by The Man Trap, which I enjoyed, I thought it was a very solid episode, and Charlie X, which I did not think was a very, very solid episode. This one came in third. I don't understand the rationale behind that because, again, if I am presenting something new to the general public or to an audience or something that people aren't as familiar with or don't have a point of reference for, sort of like a sci-fi series of this nature, you would want to put your best foot forward and say, hey, here's what you can expect each week if you decide to tune in. This incredible display of, cinema, really, this incredible display of art tucked inside of a science fiction shell, wrapped up with some amazing acting. I didn't get why it came in third. I really don't. The one thing I could think of is just in the moments that, I was watching and actually right now, just kind of running it through in my mind, the only thing I can think is this one was definitely more Spartan in its production than The Cage and the episodes that come after it. And by that, I mean, there's more to the sets, there's more to the Enterprise, there's more to the costumes, there's more to the props, there's more to the creatures, there's more to, this one, Where No Man Has Gone Before, was the second ordered pilot, and the first pilot, The Cage, had a massive cost glut, overruns, a lot. So you could tell that they were trying to kind of pull back on that. I don't think it detracted from the story at all. It was just noticeable because I've seen where they go in The Man Trap and Charlie X and where they came from in The Cage. And so this one definitely had a different feel. There was definitely like a lack of the same level of money thrown at production. But again, I don't think it affected the story whatsoever. So that's it. Things I loved about this episode. Woo! I'm going to try to cut this down. The acting was out of this world. I thought it, no pun intended, I thought it was incredibly good. I think it was a very, very intelligent move to go out and get the actor that played Gary Mitchell, Gary Lockwood, and the actor that played Dr. Elizabeth Rayner, Sally Kellerman, bringing those two in, who I have the chops to have been series regulars, and whoa, that would have been so great. But at the cost of who, right? But, again, they were just so good. The acting as a whole was really, really great. The only little asterisks I would put into the acting was I was unsure what Leonard Nimoy was doing with his... He was yelling at a couple scenes. And again, I think it was supposed to be, it was pressured, it was tense. He was yelling out the information as it came in, and he just seemed to get louder and louder. And I mentioned that in the reaction. And now what I think it was is, it's not necessarily that I disliked it. I mean, I didn't like the yelling. I think it was just very foreign because Spock, the Spock that I know, is never like that. The Spock that I know is always very reserved, very, delivers the lines and the information, not unemotionally, which it is, but it's just a very steady, very calm delivery, because of his lack of emotion. And I think that was just jarring, to have Spock kind of relaying information, and you're like, oh, okay, Spock. But that was it. That's a very, very nitpicky thing for me. And again, I can explain it in my own head, so it's probably not even worth mentioning because the rest of the episode was so fantastic. Great story, really great story. And that, the dangers, just the around the corner dangers. We're at the edge of the galaxy, which again, I'm not sure how you define that except by the maps that were produced by the people that live in said galaxy. You're not really sure exactly where it ends, but this one sure as hell did. As soon as you went out, there was a completely different kind of horizon and all that stuff. We had everybody with the ESPR rating, the ESP ratings that Starfleet apparently measures in everybody, which is news to me. I really want to see if that's mentioned anywhere else. If the ESPR rating is brought up, or the idea that everybody in Starfleet has a measure of ESP, which is, it's fantastic sounding. And I don't remember or recall having heard anything. I want to make a powerful notion that this was Bill Shatner's first time to don the uniform, the first time that he sat in the chair, the first time that he was James T. Kirk. And it was great. It was fantastic. I'll say this. I think that earlier in my life, I assumed that Bill Shatner was a bad actor because so many people did impressions of him doing crazy things, which was terrible. But I always thought, my God, is that how he was in the original series? And not that, I never thought he was that way, a couple flashes in the movies and things like that. But the movies, I don't think, with the exception of Wrath of Khan, I don't think the movies really show off Bill Shatner's chops. I saw that in Boston Legal, the legal drama he did as Denny Crane. But anywho, he has the chops, and boy, he's really showing them here. And a couple people on YouTube said, remember at this time, stage in television's development, the vast majority of people that became television stars or actors came from the stage. And so you see those kind of stage conventions brought forward into television. You even see it in the directing, longer shots. People are required to give several lines of back and forth and acting in one take. And you don't see that nowadays. My word, it's like line delivery, cut, line delivery, cut, line delivery, cut. And you can, anybody that has the opportunity to say something 50 times, one of them's going to be decent, right? So, this really showed off that almost theatrical acting, the theatrical being stage acting. And I think Bill Shatner is doing a fantastic job with it. I'm shocked by really how powerful he is in this role right from the jump. Sally Kellerman, oh my goodness, she had a really tough job. She had to play for a lot of this. She was either acting with or off of Bill Shatner or with or off Gary Lockwood, who played Gary Mitchell. And I'm not saying that she was eclipsed by them by any stretch of the imagination. Gary Lockwood, in his role as Gary Mitchell, was given a ton of things that Sally eventually gets to as she turns into this god that she's becoming as well. But, he's the focal point of their interactions. She's the Starfleet officer with the psychiatry background, and she's being brought in as kind of the medical professional to look at him and I give her estimation of what his current diagnosis is, and really just kind of look at him and come up with some type of idea about what his current state is. And so a lot of that was reactionary for her as far as the acting went for both the character and for Sally. And I thought she did a wonderful job, especially in the sickbay scenes where she and Gary Lockwood were just right up in, very intimate, very right up in each other's kind of faces, breathing into one another. And, it was just very, very, the tension was carried through there as she was the one that was understanding what exactly was going on with him and that loss of humanity. And, to face that, both as an actor and as the character facing this evolution that Gary Mitchell was going through, was so well done, because Sally had to react off of the drivers that Gary Lockwood as Gary Mitchell was giving her. And she did a wonderful job. She did just absolutely perfect execution. Which brings me to Gary Lockwood. I'm going to tell you this. I don't know this guy. Had to look up his name That's all I did. I was like, who played Gary Mitchell in Where No Man Has Gone Before? Gary Lockwood. Great. Made sure that was the same dude by looking at the picture. I've never seen him before. I don't know. He could be a huge star in early cinema and television. I just don't know. Never seen him. He looks sort of familiar, but I certainly can't place him with my Swiss cheese brain. But blown away by this guy is a dramatic understatement. This guy, from the choices that he made when he was still 100% Gary Mitchell, normally, again, the physicality that he brought forth in the role, the whisper delivery was just so menacing when it needed to be, kind of weak when it needed to be. The way that his whenever he was becoming the god, the way that he started to deliver his lines with an elevation of his chin, looking down the nose, that almost emotive physical arrogance that began to kind of take over his frame, and amazing choices. I loved it. And again, he was doing all of this with almost a stage mentality that we talked about before. He had these long exchange shots. He had these very close shots that he had to maintain this level of, he had to do a lot to get across this transformation. He's never going to look any differently. It's the eyes. And the eyes were there from the moment that he got zapped to the end. It wasn't like, he became a creature. He had to sell that he was the monster and still looking like, a handsome actor, with just different eyes. And he did it exquisitely. The other thing that I loved so much about his performance was the little motions of physicality that he threw in. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of overt actions like that. Like when he was on the bridge and they were getting ready to, things were blowing up. And it's like he instinctually, both the character and the actor, instinctually, he reached back and grabbed the hand of the yeoman that was standing behind him, behind his station. Now, I think in a lesser, I don't want to say this, but in a not as driven or not as committed performance, that could come off as very almost like patronizing, like, I've got you, get behind me type of, motion or gesture. With his, it seemed genuine, it seemed like a family member, like, whoa, or a human that needed that contact for their own courage. That's what it felt like, reaching back like, oh my God, and it was that little reactionary moment that sold me on this guy. His facial expressions and the way that he carried himself, and the clever little casual ways that he bantered with Bill Shatner, unreal. And then when he gets close with Sally in sickbay, and his again, that physicality comes out where he kind of touches her. It was a fantastic performance. I would love to know, and I don't think there's anything you can look up on the internet. I would love to know that if they were, they cast this guy to come in and play Gary Mitchell, one and done because they read the script, Gary doesn't make it, that we assume Gary doesn't make it. I'm still not completely sold that he's dead underneath that rock. I mean, he probably is, but I don't know. I wonder at what point during production that with a producer or the director or one of the casting directors or anybody, Roddenberry, anybody that was in, looked around and said, why in the hell was this guy cast for a one-off when we could have signed him to be on the series? And again, I don't know where you go with that. He might have been a big star, maybe a big get that they couldn't afford. I don't know. But it's just, the guy was sublime. He was so good. So good. Hands down, banger performance for a banger episode that for me is going to be very difficult to beat. I'm going to say this. When we meet villains, guest stars, what we want to call them NPCs, whatever they happen to be outside of the main core cast and crew, every single person is going to get compared to Gary Lockwood's performance of Gary Mitchell. S tier for me right now. S tier, whether it's a guest star, bad guy, whatever it happens to be. This is, somebody that's brought in, that's not part of the series or crew or whatever. That's the comparison. Gary Lockwood's Gary Mitchell, top of the heap, king of the mountain right now. Let's see if anybody can knock him off. And I'll wrap up by saying this. Sally Kellerman was a fantastic human being. She passed away in 2022, February, I believe. She was a friend of my family. She and my wife were very good friends for the time that they knew one another. We lived out in LA for several years. And my wife actually, as a brand new teacher, ended up teaching Sally's kids. And it was a wonderful exchange that grew far beyond the teacher and parent of a student relationship. She was, and, I think the easiest thing to say about her, and my wife could speak far more eloquently about her than I could, I will say this: in the times that we were together, I was in her proximity, I've never met anyone kinder. I've never met anyone that was more invested in you as a conversation partner and as a human. When she spoke to you, she was desperate to hear what you had to say. She wanted to know your point of view, and she remembered it. Mind like a steel trap. 6 months later, she'd bring up something that you said in passing because she was invested in the people around her. She had no right to be. She could have been as arrogant as any other celebrity that's arrogant out there could have been. But she wasn't. She was an absolutely fantastic human being. She was passionate and sympathetic and empathetic, and she loved the community of humanity. She loved it. She is, was, and forever will be one of humanity's greatest ambassadors. She was a very good example, the best, about how to be strong, how to be assertive, and to temper all of that with the ability to listen to your fellow human beings and to provide kindness and light no matter what. She was a very special person. And I'm so glad and so happy I got to see her as a surprise in a Star Trek episode. It was lovely, and it meant quite a bit to me. And in no small part, it added to my love of this episode. And so, my friends, I tried to keep it as short as I could, and I ended up not. My friends, I love and appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for sharing in this adventure with me. Like, subscribe, bell. But let's let's all do Sally a solid. Why don't we? And instead of, when we get the chance, maybe share and spread a little of the energy and the positivity and the kindness that Sally possessed. And I know it's still around. Maybe just grab a little bit of Sally's energy and recirculate it through the world. We need a little bit of that now. So, my friends, thank you all. And I think it's time for Q&A. Greetings, mon capitaines, and welcome to another installment of Q&A. Friends, this is where, after I watch the episode, I go onto the internet and I find some interesting facts about said episode so as to not ruin it for myself before actually watching it, and maybe answering a few of the questions I had while watching it. And so, my friends, just a couple brief little things that I uncovered, and this is just on the Wikipedia page for Where No Man Has Gone Before. I thought several of these little tidbits were very, very fascinating. First off, we have to start with James T. Kirk. James T. Kirk, the character, whenever Jeffrey Hunter, who played Christopher Pike, decided not to return for the series, they had to find a new captain. And so they went out and they went searching for whoever they could find to fit the bill of the chair of the USS Enterprise. And so they ultimately settled, obviously, on Bill Shatner. However, I was very interested to see who they had actually seen prior to Bill Shatner as being James T. Kirk. Let's put a pin in that T, by the way, too. Lloyd Bridges and Jack Lord were both up for the role of James T. Kirk, but it went to Bill Shatner. And to be quite fair, they made the right call. No offense to Lloyd Bridges or Jack Lord. I just think that what I've seen so far, Bill Shatner is exactly who we needed. And obviously, boy, you're going out on a limb there to say that Bill Shatner was a good James T. Kirk. I know. I'm here to make strong stands. All right, so that was the James T. Kirk came off being William Shatner instead of Lloyd Bridges or Jack Lord. Now, why am I saying James T. Kirk? Because, and I didn't notice this, because I was so spun up during this moment in the episode, whenever Gary Mitchell pulls up the grave that he's going to throw Bill Shatner in, James T. Kirk, it actually says James R. Kirk. Now, I looked that one up and it appeared here and for a bit, and that is the only reference of James R. Kirk. At least as far as what I've been able to find here. I'd be very interested to see if maybe there's like a file that pops up or something that might have that R on there. So if you know, if there's any way to like non-spoilery tell me that it's where to look for it, I'm very interested in that. Now, Gary Lockwood, who played Gary Mitchell, I probably should have recognized him if I call myself a science fiction fan, but I didn't. Apparently, he was in 2001: A Space Odyssey. I've never seen that movie. I know it's awful. It's on the list for Sci Fridays for the top 150 movies from Rotten Tomatoes, but that's where he appeared after the events of his role here in Where No Man Has Gone Before. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Okay, a couple things on the other side of the production that I found to be particularly interesting. One, this episode, Where No Man Has Gone Before, was in fact the first one produced after The Cage or whenever they got their second chance. They used and reused, as we mentioned during the reaction, the uniforms and several of the props and things like that were left over from The Cage. They apparently made some very small changes to the insignias by giving them like a different outline to make them like pop more. I'm not sure exactly what they did other than kind of ringing the delta and making it, stand out a bit off of the fabric. The thing that I thought was very interesting, and we did talk about this in the reaction, is that this particular episode cost around $300,000. Now, The Cage, as we mentioned in the Q&A for The Cage, was like $650,000, which was quite a sum of money. For 300's tough too. When you think that they almost spent $1 million on the pilot for Star Trek in The Cage and Where No Man Has Gone Before, that's a hefty investment. Now, once they put that all in there, obviously corners were cut as far as what we talked about. They reused the uniforms. They didn't want to, cause any undue expense in that respect. So what Gene Roddenberry said was different about this, and what kind of sold NBC execs on Where No Man Has Gone Before, where they were not quite as sold on The Cage, was the following. Gene Roddenberry said, the science is the same. The technology, the outer world environment, the same. Gene Roddenberry said, the big difference is the captain of the Enterprise, James T. Kirk, and the big bad, Gary Mitchell, who was playing a godlike figure, get into a bare-knuckle fist fight at the end. And that, he said, was the moment that the NBC execs were sold. I'd like to think that it was the acting leading up to that fist fight that probably got a few of them thinking they had a winner. But I digress. I don't think the executives were that out of touch, but that was great. So it was exactly what we had thought. You know, they didn't have as much money to work with, but the story, the acting, and really everything else was stronger. And I think they had learned from The Cage, not taking away from The Cage at all. They had learned a lot from The Cage. They had learned like where they wanted to go, how they wanted to take this story, take this ship, take these characters, and they began to implement that kind of slight, subtle shift in direction with Where No Man Has Gone Before. And so, my friends, thus ends another installment of Q&A. So, mon capitaines, until we meet again, Vulcan roll.